Chambers. This meeting is being live streamed to the Rocky Hill Public Schools website. Good evening, everyone. If you could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening, everyone. We'll start with tonight's first part of the meeting is audience participation, meeting open to the public. If there's anyone here wishing to address the board, please raise your hand and we will call you. Yes. Tom.
Hi, good evening. My name is Tejal Balam, 45 Andover Drive. Just wanted to address the Board of Ed for a request to be put on the agenda to make Diwali a holiday in the Rocky Hill Public Schools. Diwali is actually coming up next week. Many Indian families celebrate it across the world. It is the largest celebrated holiday in India. Recently, we have heard about Newington, Avon, South Windsor has approved Diwali as a holiday in its town. Maybe some of you read the news this morning. New York City Mayor Eric Adams also made Diwali a holiday for the entire New York City public school system. And for that reason, I request the Board of Ed please consider putting Diwali on your agenda to be heard as a public holiday for the 2023 calendar. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Phelan, so we do have an agenda item tonight regarding the school calendar, so I'm sure it will be discussed as part of it. It doesn't need to be a separate item. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else here tonight wishing to address the board?
Yeah, hi, I'm Rajiv Desai from Rocky Hill. I live on 721 France Street. I am one of the instrumental person to have a holiday in Newington town because we have the Hindu temple over there and I am one of the founders there. So I'm requesting the Rocky Hill Educational Board and the school district to have the Diwali holiday here. We have a town population of 21,000. We have more than 4,000 Indians, 20% of the populations are Indian. And we want to connect our next generation, our heritage, our culture, and we are missing our New Year celebration every year. So we are requesting you to have in a Rocky Hill School District a Diwali holiday. The main purpose of this request is to connect our next generation with our culture and heritage. And we are 20% of the Rocky Hill population is Indian Asians. In a town like Newington, we have only 4% of the population. It was approved with 95% of the board member has voted for it. So we are requesting Rocky Hill town to follow it. Thank you.
I think Dr. Zeters had a comment or a question as well.
Yeah, I appreciate, sir, if you could stay at the podium for a second. So we are talking about the calendar tonight, as Mr. Dillon mentioned. I just looked up, the Diwali falls, I believe, next year on Sunday, November 12th. Would you have a recommendation either for a Monday off or Friday?
Yes, usually Diwali is a 5 days of celebration.
Okay,
So we can pick Monday as a holiday.
or the
Like-
previous Friday, but
Yeah,
you,
the previous Friday
or the Monday? Would there be a preference in your view from the community?
Friday will be helpful.
Friday before the 12th?
Yep.
Okay. That's helpful information for the board, I think.
Yeah, and I think to just follow up on that, what did Newington pick, just so we have an idea?
This year is on Monday.
Do you know what Newington is for 2023?
Yeah, no, 24th is the Diwali.
Yeah, but what day did Newington pick in their,
For next year.
Next coming Monday.
For-
In 2023.
For 2023, I have to check with the Board of Ed.
No. Do they have off this year as well?
Yeah, this year they are.
yeah, but no, I'm asking for 2023,
For
what day
next
they
fall, we
chose.
need to know.
The following year. I will make sure at next meeting, I will let you know.
Only because I think it'd be nice if the local school districts were consistent in the day that they all picked.
Yeah, we have
Okay.
5 towns that is following
Okay.
the same calendar.
Okay.
Yeah, we have South Windsor, we have Avon.
Okay. Yeah, if we could get that information, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Harita Nagabandi. I'm from 8 Mystic Crescent, resident in Rockville. So I think many of them talked about how we have the population and all. So I want to talk about my experience as a parent and having 2 kids. So I would like my kids to know and connected with the roots, and also be in the home when we actually do the celebrations for Diwali. So like either all the neighboring towns have, some of the neighboring towns have acknowledged, I would like us to make that to be added into the holiday as in the school calendar.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the board? Yes, please.
My name is Shilpa and I'm 9 Beecher Lane, Rocky Hill. I'm here to support everyone. I'm from Rocky Hill School, where I'm a staff member. So even if the kids get excused holiday, I don't. So I have to take my personal day off for the Diwali celebration. I have been like all 4 years, last 4 years, I have been dressing up for the Diwali, be in school, do my duties, go home and then do my religious things. And even for the kids, it's so tough because in the morning we have to do some stuff regarding Diwali, which we cannot because we have to be in school. So I wanted to give you the staff perspective because there are so many Indian staff in the school system and they don't get holidays. I know the school system has excused Diwali holiday for kids, but not for the staff. And to point more on Raju Bhai's comment, I would like to have Monday as off if it is falling on Sunday, because Monday is Hindu New Year. So we do celebrations on the New Year too. So that, the second day of Diwali is our New Year. So then I would prefer the next day of Diwali if it falls on Sunday. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's helpful.
Anyone else to address the board?
Hello, my name is Banan from 89 Low Lane. Similar to the request, I have a 6-year-old son, and he's been born and raised here. He celebrates all the other cultural holidays. It just so happens that the Heritage Holiday is usually a school day, and he does miss a part of the celebrations that we do at home. So it's one of another request coming from me is to observe Diwali as a school holiday, so that kids can just stay home, learn about the culture, like they do about Christmas, Thanksgiving, etc. So thank you for your time, consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else here to address the board? Mr. Kosker, how are you, sir?
I'm doing
Good.
I'm Kosker, 52.
Not on. You want to press the thing.
Oh, this one's on? There we go. Oh, there we go.
Oh, there you go.
I couldn't hear anybody. Tom Kosker, 52 Tall Pines Lane. I'm not here to talk about the Diwali holiday. Although as a member of the Commission on Inclusion and Innovation in Rocky Hill, I do support that. And we've been doing a lot of work around inclusion of folks of different religions and races and stuff. And I think the number's actually quite a bit higher than 20. I thought it was closer to 30% of the population in Rocky Hill. So I'm sure you guys have those numbers as far as student population as well. But so really here, just quick on special education. So a couple things. And you'll probably get a report, so I won't steal thunder from Amy, but appreciate the board supporting and the administration supporting some training that just happened with the IEP and 504 Connecticut SEDS program, so I appreciate that. It was great. We had good turnout. I'm not stealing your thunder, Amy, but she'll talk about it. She'll talk about it. And also, and again, your continued support of our Special Education Advisory Council. We're meeting next Monday night, and I know a few of you guys will be there, which I appreciate. So again, all are welcome. I try to get you guys all the invitation to that. I don't think all board members got it, but I know a number of you on the Special Education Committee got it, and Brian and Dr. Zito got it. So we welcome you for that. So appreciate your continued support, and I think that's all I have to say. But I told my daughter, because she came to the meeting, that I would have to say something tonight. So here I am.
On the way here, he was like making a checklist of things
Yes.
to say.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Mr. Kosker. Anyone else here to address the board tonight? Yes, please.
Thank you. I apologize. I was a few minutes late, so I missed the first few comments, but I'm sure, I just wanted to add my voice in support of a celebration of Diwali holiday, as our children are born in the U.S., and a lot of us have children born in the U.S., so we bring them up with American culture and tradition, introducing them. We host Thanksgiving at our home with a large group of friends, so it's just, we just would love to have them home to celebrate their own cultural traditions as well, because that's the only way, really. We don't get to travel back to our home countries for these celebrations, so we'd like them to learn as much as they can and incorporate it into their lives as much as they can here. So that's it. Nandika Prakash, 82 Andover Drive. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Prakash. Anyone else here to address the board tonight? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on to the report from student representatives. Let's start with Rocky Hill High School.
Hi, I'm Nick Jokel. I'm a current junior at Rocky Hill High School. Now that school has started up again, various programs have begun. Earlier this month, on October 6th, the freshman class participated in the Lend a Paw program. About 190 freshmen went to 9 different sites in town and performed community service activities. The program serves as a start to the community service graduation requirement that all students have. Furthermore, last Thursday, October 13th, students were introduced to the new form for logging community service hours in an advisory homeroom period. Also last week, the PSATs occurred. On the morning of Tuesday, October 12th, all students in grades 9 to 11 took the PSAT. Scores will be released in early December. Last week also contained the financial planning meeting. The meeting took place the night of October 11th in the school auditorium and was intended for parents of students, specifically seniors that will be applying to colleges soon. The meeting provided information of financial aid and scholarships for colleges. As far as extracurriculars go, everything seems to be back in full swing running. Almost all clubs are back up and running, and this year especially, there have been numerous new clubs. Furthermore, fall sports are continuing and beginning to come to an end. This past week, the boys cross-country team won the CCC Conference Championship on Tuesday the 18th. Additionally, the powder puff practices have begun, with games to take place in November. As for the music program, the marching band recently competed at a competition this past weekend where they won first place. Next week is Spirit Week, which will conclude with Class Colors Day on Friday, October 28th. This day will also be the date of the pep rally where each class will compete against each other in various competitions. Overall, the energy of the school is positive, and there is an excitement of all the wonderful events to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now have the representatives from Moser School. Oh, looks like we got a PowerPoint. All right.
And they're fancy.
Good evening, board members and the Rocky Hill community. My name is Annabelle Diaz, and I'm the Moser principal. Tonight, we have 2 amazing student representatives from Moser, Hiba Akbarsai and Andrew Mujo. Hiba and Andrew will tell you more about what's been happening at the Moser Ranch. Hiba and Andrew, let's take it away.
Hello, my name is Hiba Akbarzai, and I'm a 5th grader at Moser.
Hello, I'm Andrew Mujo, and I'm a 5th grader at Moser. We are so excited to tell you about our school year so far.
The day before school started, parents and students were able to come in and meet our wonderful teachers. It was so great to see our classrooms before the first day.
A big part being at Moser is being a family and respecting our peers. We love being able to show who we are and what we love with personality borns.
In class, we are learning about how to clarify different character traits to help us understand what we are reading. Understanding how different characters act can also teach us what we want to behave kindly and caringly.
Our writer's notebook help us strengthen our writing skills and show us our storytelling abilities. We are able to display the stories in our brains and get creative.
Having class outside is a great way to get away from desk and get out into the fresh air. Outdoor classrooms help us feel engaged with our work and concentrate more once we are back inside, and it's fun.
Dia de los Muertos is a traditional Mexican holiday that allows families to welcome back the souls of their dead relatives. Miss Shearer showed us a slideshow on the holiday. We made sugar box skulls out of paper. We could design them any way we wanted. One student even made a Dunkin' Donuts skull.
It took some getting used to being back our first few weeks of school. Some 5th graders went to their 4th grade classrooms, and some 4th graders needed help finding their new teacher rooms. But it's normal now, and now we're at the swing of things. Learning at Moser is fun and always exciting. We're so happy to be back with our friends.
It was so much fun to see our parents and teachers in the same place at the same time. Our parents were excited to hear about all that we have been learning this year, and we were excited for our teachers to talk about how great we are.
Miss DeLara and Miss Shearer have done such a good job taking over our STEAM lab. We are able to experiment with all different STEAM subjects. Recently, we have been making Lego program them to move.
It was very important for us to read this summer. Reading is a great way to build our concentration and knowledge.
Most importantly, if we complete the summer reading challenge, we got to slime Dr. Diaz.
Great.
Well done. Oh.
All right, so speaking of Dr. Diaz, she picked a real special little outfit for this event, showing her Moser pride. Let's bring out our principal, Dr. Diaz. Moser School, we need your help. Let's count down to 5. 5.
Oh.
Thank you, Dr. Diaz, for making learning exciting and fun.
We can't wait to see the rest of the year will be like at Moser.
Oh, that's sweet.
Very well done. That was a great report. All right, we are going to move on. The next item that we have on the agenda is the approval of minutes. We have the September 15th, 2022 Board of Education meeting minutes, September 29th, 2022 Board of Education Transportation Committee meeting, and September 29th, 2022 Board of Education Transportation hearing. Does anyone have any requests for any revisions, deletions, or edits to the minutes? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So move as stated by the chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Manella, seconded by Ms. Tucker. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. I have 8-0. Correspondence, Dr. Zito.
No correspondence.
Okay. Consent calendar. We have 4 items on the consent calendar. Approval of the Board of Education meeting schedule for 2023. Approval of the Rocky Hill High School Class of 2023 graduation date, Saturday, June 17th. Direct the administration to proceed with the soliciting of bids for Phase 1 of the Stevens HVAC project, and authorization for the administration to apply for the State of Connecticut HVAC grant program for schools to support the Stevens School HVAC project. Would anyone like any items removed from the consent calendar? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
There's a motion by Ms. Rolfe. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Tucker. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0. Thank you. Committee reports. Curriculum.
The curriculum, the curriculum meeting happened on Tuesday, October 18th. We had a second good discussion on the 8th grade field trip to Washington, moving it to potentially the high school. Really good conversation, and there's going to be more decisions to come and a presentation coming in the November board meeting. We also talked about the update on the vision of the graduate, which I imagine is going to be later in this meeting.
Excellent. All right. Any questions for Ms. Tucker? Hearing none, we'll move on to facilities. Mr. Gavin.
The Facilities Committee had a meeting also on October 18th, and we discussed the possible action regarding the Connecticut HVAC grant program that recently became available, as well as what you just mentioned, which is directing the administration to proceed with soliciting bids for Phase 1 of the Stevens School HVAC project.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Gavin? Hearing none. All right. And I'd like to just thank all the board members and committee members that participated in those 2 meetings the other night. They were very productive meetings regarding some direction on items for the board. So thank you for all your efforts. Finance Committee.
We have not met.
Finance Committee. Well, they'll be meeting
We are
soon
about
enough.
to.
Budget is going to be starting. So P&N.
No meetings at this time.
Correct. Policy is Mr. Gavin, and he's not here, but we did not have
Slattery.
Mr. Slattery, I'm sorry, but he's not here tonight. We did not have a meeting, so.
I would just add one item, if I may.
Yes, Mr.
Policy and School Safety Committee. I think Mr. Slattery chairs that committee as well.
Yep.
10/26, which is next Wednesday. Those meetings will start at 6 o'clock at Moser, and I'll include that information in the weekly update. I think I put it in last week's update, but I'll make sure it's in there again.
Okay, so policy
We'll start with
and
school safety at 6
okay.
o'clock, and then proceed into policy right after that. Christine will be there. She's got some policy information that the committee needs to work on, and we've got an update on the SRO situation and some other information that the committee had requested regarding Sonatrol, buzzer locks, and things like that.
Okay. Special education is Mr. Slattery, and I believe they did not have a meeting.
Now, the only thing is, Mr. Kosker earlier mentioned, they do have their parent group meeting coming up on
Monday. Correct. All right, correct counsel, Mr. Desai, I believe you had a meeting, correct? Yes.
Indeed. So correct monthly meeting was held on Wednesday, the 19th of October. Executive Director Dr. Florio stated that this year school start seems to be very much positive, and students are more energized and happier. Over 9,000 students are enrolled now at the magnet schools. Staffing challenges and transportation concerns were raised. HR is addressing the staffing issues, and they have put together a retention program that will offer bonuses and also employee referral program to keep the paraprofessionals. For the transportation department, there were concerns about some buses running late, mostly due to the driver shortages, though they were down from the last year. Concerns about staffing shortage in security guards and food services were also expressed. The technology department has provided over 3,000 new devices to the kids. They implemented the multifunction authentications CrowdStrike and are now working on enhancing the cybersecurity. Revised policy number 5141, 5144, 6141, and 6159 were proposed. Dr. Florio also gave an update on CREC's support to islands of Puerto Rico after the devastation of Hurricane Fiona. Also, the council members were encouraged to donate a backpack for magnet school students. That's all I have to report.
All right, excellent, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Desai? Oh, you have a hand up. No questions? All right, school safety. Mr. Slattery is not here, but as Dr. Zito mentioned, that meeting is also scheduled for October 26th at 6 o'clock. So that will be the school safety committee meeting.
Correct.
All right. All right, old business. I do not see that we have any old business, correct? No. Okay. New business, discussion and possible action regarding the educational specifications for the HVAC project at Stevens School. This item does require board action. It's part of the requirements that were discussed at the Facilities Committee meeting to apply for the state grant. For those that have been on the board for some time, as you remember, when we constructed the high school, when we constructed Moser School, we drafted, I would call it, exhaustive educational specs to meet the requirements to build a new school. When we did the GMSAC project, just like Stevens, they were very short. It's about air quality in schools, energy conservation. So they're really much more abbreviated. I think the copies were handed out at the meeting.
We handed them out at the meeting.
Emailed to all board members.
Electronically sent them.
Yep.
In the interest of not killing too many trees.
Correct.
We sent them electronically to you. I have a copy for the chair here if you want to review them. And Ron is here to make answer any questions you might have. But to Brian's point, it's very simple versus like Ed Specs for Moser School where we sat down and we wrote them and had multiple meetings where the board took a look at them. This is, cut and dried kind of an HVAC project, so.
Does anyone have any questions? I know they were distributed electronically and they were also provided at the Facilities Committee meeting. If not, we can entertain a motion to approve them. They are a requirement for us to pursue the grant. Can I get a motion to approve the ed specs for the Stevens HVAC project?
Motion to approve the ed specs.
Motion by Mr. Gavin. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Rolfe. We'll have the Facility Committee members handle it. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0. Thank you. All right, moving on to agenda item 11, class size analysis. Dr. Zito will provide a review of the class size enrollments across all grade levels. I know that I think one board member, Ms. Lafredo, had some questions. Dr. Zito did answer those, and we'll talk in a little more detail about some of those questions tonight. But I will turn the floor over to Dr. Zito.
Thank you, Mr. Dillon. So for those of you that are new to the board, you get a pretty comprehensive report left in front of you. Christine, thank you for preparing this again. Christine does a great job working with Fred in our IT department and then with the secretaries at each of the schools to compile the data and give you an accurate snapshot. So from an overall standpoint, the enrollment's stable. We're up 15 kids this year, pre-K through 12. That's a very small fluctuation. It's consistent with Rocky Hill, where we tend to see pretty stable enrollment patterns. For those of you that have been on the board for a number of years, you know that for quite some time. I would say, going back, I've been here, this is my 11th year. The first 5 years I was here, we were rapidly climbing to the point where we had 14 portables at the 2 elementary schools. The last 3 or 4 years, probably due to the pandemic and some other factors as well, the enrollment has kind of stabilized. So that's good for budgeting, and it's good from the standpoint of staffing that the enrollment's stable. I'll take you to the first page. If you look at the elementary schools, Ms. Lafredo did email me today. She pointed out a couple of things that she saw, and that's very astute of her to do that. If you look at the kindergarten at Stevens, we're a handful of kids over. But then if you look at Stevens for grade 3, we're well under the guideline of 22. I did have a conversation in late August with Ms. Duran, the principal, about those numbers in kindergarten, and the collective decision was to keep the teachers where they were and not move a 3rd grade teacher down to kindergarten because they have full-time paraprofessional support in those classes. So we felt like that was, with 2 adults in those rooms, she preferred to keep the additional teacher in grade 3. One thing I also noted to Ms. Lafredo in my response to her today is that we are very tight on space. Ron has been through that building with a fine-tooth comb. 20 regular classrooms is what we have at that school. So if enrollment did spike, and I don't anticipate that it will, at Stevens to the point where we got to the point where the board was not comfortable with class sizes, we would probably have to look at doing some redistricting in terms of taking some streets and assigning them to West Hill. That's a very arduous process. I've been through it in a previous school district. It's disruptive. You're starting to tell families, all right, this street is now assigned to a different school and so forth. So I'd prefer to avoid that if we can, but we will continue to monitor those numbers. Again, at West Hill, the numbers are very favorable. West Hill does have 3 more classroom teachers, and part of that is a function of space. Those positions were budgeted. So, we try not to move programs around. At this point, we have a Bright Beginnings classroom at each of the schools. It seems to be working out pretty well. We have a KIP program actually at Stevens, and we have a behavioral program at West Hill. So we have some specialized programs, but the buildings are fairly tight, which is one of the reasons that the board built Moser School. The numbers at Moser are favorable as well. So from an overall standpoint, the overall picture K through 5, it's a change of 3 kids. So it speaks to the stability. We have seen a bit of a dip in the enrollment at West Hill. We're here anecdotally. Some of that is related to some of the visa issues and some of the travel issues. Some of the families from Southeast Asia, we're hearing, have had difficulty getting visa renewals. So there are some kids we anticipate that if that picture changes, will be coming back to West Hill. So I wouldn't be surprised if those numbers started to climb up at some point, either this year or into next year. But overall, it's a stable picture across the district, but certainly K-5 with only a change of 3 kids. Class sizes at the middle school are very favorable. Things are going pretty well there. You'll notice PE classes tend to be a bit larger in some of the sections. They're kind of used to that. Otherwise, no real significant changes. And again, from last year to this year, an overall change at the middle school of 4 kids. Again, speaking to the stability. When you take a look and you dive into the high school report, you're going to notice some small sections. Typically, those very small sections are general level classes where we're servicing kids with special needs, kids who have special accommodation requirements, and they get a lot of I wouldn't say individual attention, but a lot of small group attention, which is beneficial. I really have no concerns with any class sizes at the high school level. The overall difference in enrollment at the high school this year, it's up about 19 kids total. Again, in a school with over 700 students, 19 kids is a drop in the bucket. So it's a very stable picture throughout the district. And we'll get more into this when we get into the budget. You'll see some enrollment projections. And then I spent some time in the spring with the town council going over the enrollment as well. But from an overall standpoint, we're fully staffed. We're pleased. Things seem to be going well. And we're not getting complaints about class sizes from any of our principals or teachers. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, any questions for Dr. Zito? Ms. Tucker.
Looking at Stevens and West Hill, the smallest class sizes is the third grade, right? So they're going to be moving to Moser next year. If the kindergarten continues with the same pattern, that Stevens is larger than West Hill, has it ever been discussed of can West Hill handle the Bright Beginnings program in total? So that would open up another classroom potentially in Stevens?
We've discussed that. We had a number of facilities meetings a number of years ago. I think at the time, Mr. Dillon was the vice chair of the board and ran the facilities committee. At the time, the consensus from the members at that committee were it's beneficial for us to have Bright Beginnings at each of the elementary schools.
Because those students have peers, siblings that are going to that school. So to separate those kids is not really fair to those families.
Tried to maintain programming at each of the schools. We also have a specialized behavior program at West Hill where we're able to keep kids in district. Historically, those kids were outplaced, very expensive outplacements. And we actually have the KIP program. There's an error on this. The KIP program is at Stevens. So again, we're trying to balance programming. But it's been addressed in the past, and the consensus was to try to keep specialized programs in each building.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Any additional questions for Dr. Zito? Oh, I was looking right at you, Mr. Gavin. I was waiting. What do we got?
I was redistricted at one point. It wasn't that.
Yeah, I mean, if the numbers spiked at Stevens, we might have to have that conversation. That would be obviously a board decision. I don't have the authority to redistrict.
I mean, because that would redistrict all grades then, right? Because you'd have to.
You
go by
normally in
street.
redistricting, you would pick a couple of streets, a couple neighborhoods, and assign them to West Hill. That's typically.
Yeah.
I've worked in a district where we did that, and I don't want to sound too sarcastic, but I did at one meeting say, we're not sending your kids overseas. They're going to Tooten Hills Elementary instead of Latimer Lane. I mean, but parents were upset in some cases moving
I remember.
schools.
I went to every school in town. Literally everyone.
I mean, it happens. Districts have to do it sometimes.
Yeah.
So we continue to monitor the numbers pretty closely. It is disruptive, though, so I would prefer not to go down that road if we can avoid it.
And I think one of the concerns is what you mentioned, Dr. Zito, that should we resume that influx of students at West Hill? Right now, there's a pause, but should that change, that could really tilt us back in the other direction. So I think we need to be cognizant of that as well.
Yeah, the only thing I was thinking is that, the Ames project, and there's a couple large projects coming up that would be Stevens-based, not West Hill-based.
And I think one of the things, and I don't have the details, that was being
that's
discussed.
a few years down the road, but.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of one-bedrooms
I
tied to
talked
that
to the town
development.
manager about the Ames project, and when they do these studies, they'll give you a metric. They'll actually, Nancy's an engineer, she's nodding at me, they'll say for every unit, you're getting 0.2 kids. So you can't imagine a fifth of a kid, but 5 units, you've got a kid. So it's a very low metric for that development. I can't quote it directly, but in meeting with the interim town manager, Ray Carpentino, he does not anticipate many students living in that complex.
A lot of those are one-bedroom units, which means you don't even count those. You're only counting the two-bedroom units.
Right.
Two or more. Correct.
Okay, that was just.
Any additional?
Altera, for example, only produced, I think, 7 or 8 kids.
Yeah.
The entire complex, 7 or 8 kids. It's very small.
Yeah, there was a lot of, we were really shocked because there was a lot of discussion about Altera at the board level. And then, once it came and
7 or 8
started,
kids.
we actually asked the question, there were 7 kids. That was it. Yeah.
That's doable.
Yeah, so there really was not the impact that people were concerned about in terms of the schools.
Is that the same situation for the complex that they're considering for near the liquor store there on Main Street?
Well, I think you could use the same metric. I don't know,
I think that's
Is that still going to be one bedroom, or is it?
Yeah, so you really wouldn't see that impact if they're one bedroom. Any additional questions regarding the enrollment projections? So I think the best thing to say is right now we're stable, correct, Dr. I mean,
we're
there's some
stable,
concerns, but we are stable overall.
Which is
with
very
the
good
class
from a
size.
budgeting standpoint.
Yeah.
To have stable enrollment.
Absolutely. All right, any final Questions? None? All right, moving on to agenda item number 12, approval of the 2023-2024 school year calendar. This is the board's first look at it for discussion. The assumption is that we will tentatively look to adopt this calendar at the next meeting. I know Dr. Zito may have a few highlights he wants to talk about regarding end dates and vacations. So I'll start with Dr. Zito.
Sure. So a couple of things. First of all, I really appreciate the individuals who came tonight and spoke about Diwali. And as I looked it up quickly on my phone. So make a note on your draft calendar here. It falls on Sunday the 12th. So I'll get some feedback. I'll try to speak to colleagues in other districts that have adopted the holiday and see if they're going with the Friday or the Monday, because I heard different sentiments this evening for Friday versus Monday. Typically, we would provide one day if the board adopts it, and I'm also looking at one of our central office secretaries. Rapali can help me out with some of those communications as well. But I think we'll come back to the board with a recommended date for Diwali for the board's consideration as well. In addition to that, I'd like the board to consider a couple of other things. If you continue on the November theme next year, we're recommending that we hold school before Thanksgiving only on Monday and Tuesday. That half day of Wednesday seems to be kind of a day where kids come in for a couple hours, teachers are anxious to get out of the building, secretaries want to go home and start preparing meals, other employees are eager to get out. It might be advantageous for families that need to travel or have guests come in just to have school on Monday and Tuesday that week and have that Wednesday before Thanksgiving off. I know a lot of people would appreciate that. The other possibility that we're asking the board to consider is making the last day of school a full day. It's a full teacher day. It's typically, the last few years, been a half day for kids. That tends to be a burden on some working parents who, it's just another day where they have to make arrangements to have a parent at home halfway through the day instead of the normal pickup time. The teachers have a full day on that day. Just something for you to consider as a board. At the high school level, it's really a moot point because they're already into exams, so they're on that exam schedule. But pre-K through 8, a full day might be beneficial, particularly for working families. It's just one fewer day where they have to worry about an early pickup. So pretty minor changes. We're looking at the first day of school on this calendar, very similar to what we did this year, having the kids come back on Thursday, August 31st, getting that two days in before Labor Day weekend. That seems to work pretty well. It's 2 days we get under our belts before a nice long weekend, so it eases the kids back in. And otherwise, we're consistent with CREC and the other regions on the April break. Really don't have a heck of a lot more comments on this. I want to thank Christine for her efforts. Does a great job with the calendar, communicates with her colleagues in other districts, and Darlene, I know you help out with this a lot too in terms of trying to map out when the early release days are for PD. So happy to answer any questions, and again, I think Mr. Dillon makes a great suggestion that really you should look tonight as just a first read and email any questions you have to me over the next couple of weeks. Talk to your constituents about ideas they might have in terms of the parental perspective. We're flexible. You guys have to make the decision. We'll make any calendar you want work, but we need your input, and then we need to solidify it hopefully at the next meeting.
All right. Any questions tonight or comments from any board members? Okay. And Dr. Zito, so with the addition of Diwali, we would be looking at then June 12th, right?
Right, we would push out to
everyone
June
needs to realize
12th.
that.
If the
Yep.
board, for example, if you went with a district holiday on Monday, the 13th of November, you'd
School would
push
end June
last day of
12th.
school up to the 12th.
Okay. Okay. Before we move on, any final thoughts or comments? None? Okay, we will move on to item 13, Assistant Superintendent for Personnel and Student Services Report, Ms. Stevenson.
Okay, good evening, everyone. It's nice to see you all. I feel like, I don't know why, I just feel like I haven't seen you guys. I feel like it's been forever since there was a board meeting, so it's nice to see you. So my report is going to be brief since Mr. Kosker already did most of my report for me. It's totally fine. Thanks. Thank you. As he said, Monday night, we had a parent night. Miss Herman and Miss St. Pierre ran that, and the feedback from them was that it went really well, and we had a great turnout, and parents asked some really good questions. So I was very pleased with that. So that went really well. I do want to give a shout out to Sandy Mall. She is my executive assistant and has really been working so hard with this new IEP, troubleshooting with the state. It's been very intense, and she's done an amazing job. So I do want to give a shout out to her. And also, Miss Herman, our special education director, has been amazing. And I do want to let you know that Miss St. Pierre, who you hired starting July 1, it's been a great addition to our team. She's doing a wonderful job, and I thank you because I don't know what we would have done without her. So she's really doing a great job, and I just want to give you guys an update on that. And Monday night, the 24th, we have our meeting. It's at 5 o'clock, and it is virtual. And I just want to mention, this is very exciting, Miss Martin, our teacher in the transition program, sent us an email. We have a student who is working at both Walgreens and Chick-fil-A. And Chick-fil-A posted on their social media a picture of our student, and they wrote, "Our Boz always shares a smile and hello, and we are so happy to have him on our team." So it was a great post and a great email to get, and we're really excited for him because he not only has one job, but two. So, and both of those jobs came out of the program, so that's just a really great update. Switching to HR, I want to mention, we're still... I heard Mr. Desai's report about CREC and some of the shortages, and we're still holding strong. So we have one opening for certified staff. We do have applicants. We have interviews next week. I anticipate that we'll be, hiring for that position quite easily. And the majority of our non-certified positions are also filled. We had a few open, but we get candidates and we hire, and we're in very good shape with staffing. So we're very fortunate. And I want to mention that I continue to update the dashboard weekly. Our cases are pretty low. I just updated it actually before the meeting. I think we're at 9 cases total for a week, which is quite low. And our nurses are continuing to test our students. We have tested a total of 60 students so far this year in our schools. And out of the 60, only 3 have been positive. So it's quite low. We're doing well, and it's just really nice to be kind of back to normal and just resuming our regular school activities. So that's my report. If anybody has any questions.
Any questions for Mrs. Stevenson? Mr. Gavin.
I'm not sure if everyone saw it, but I saw an article in The Patch, which is kind of a local online thing.
Yeah.
That Rocky Hill was in the top 25 in the state for places to work as a teacher.
Oh, wow.
So I thought that was pretty solid. And
That's great.
If they hadn't seen it.
Great, thank you. I think that's pretty consistent with the fact that we have our positions filled, and I actually had to do an exit interview with someone today, which was kind of, I think, the first one I've had to do because the majority of our certified staff that leave because they're retiring. And I said, well, I usually don't have to do these. So that's very consistent with what you read.
Excellent. Any additional questions for Ms. Stevenson? Seeing none, we will move on to the Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations report. I know Mr. Zettergren is not here tonight. Dr. Zito, was
Sure.
Provide some comments.
Yeah, I'll provide some comments, and again, I'm going to jump into my report for a second. Just, it's been a tough last several days for Chuck. Chuck is stalwart. He's at every meeting. He never misses a meeting. He's at work before everybody else every day. He's always the last one to leave. He's really just a rock for our district, and you know that he lost his youngest son last week. So it's been really, really difficult. Saw him today at the funeral, and Chuck shared with me that the support provided by you as a board, a great, beautiful arrangement was sent over. Many of you had the opportunity to attend the wake. We had a lot of staff members at the wake. We had a lot of representation at the funeral today, and he really appreciates the support because losing a child unexpectedly is probably the toughest thing a family can go through. So Chuck, he'll be with us soon, obviously attending to his family today, but again, really expresses his appreciation for the heartfelt support from everybody. So with that being said, I'll give some updates on his area, so to speak. You've got the financial report in front of you. There's a deficit in these salaries for paraprofessionals because we hire them for Bright Beginnings, and then the town reimburses us out of the tuition for the non-identified students. So that deficit will correct itself as we move through the school year and get those reimbursements from the town. There's also a deficit in the in and out of district tuition. That's for magnet schools and for students with special education needs. And again, we normally receive 2 installments of the excess cost reimbursement grant from the state. Once those monies come in, I anticipate that those accounts will rectify themselves as well. Again, it's really early in the year to be doing these financial reports, but we do them on a monthly basis, and the rest of the line items look very solid. The second thing, I've got an email today from Jason Hughes over at New Britain Transportation. The feedback he's getting is that the Bus Finder app has improved quite a bit. So I know a number of you have, and we appreciate a number of board members have been emailing Chuck and me and letting us know that things seem to be working better. So that's a positive development. I know that Mr. Dillon, you had asked us to come back with a little more information and kept open the possibility of needing to meet again. We're certainly willing to, but I'm not sure we need to at this point.
You're stealing my whole report.
I'm sorry. No, Chuck normally would have given that update,
yeah.
so.
No, that's okay.
You know, the
Yeah.
feedback from Jason Hughes is that things seem to be working a little bit better, so. So that's really what I would have covered, what Chuck would have covered this evening.
Any questions regarding the financial report? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on to the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, Ms. Listro.
Okay, I will keep my report brief. When we met as a curriculum committee, I just want to update the full board that the high school team did meet, and they have an updated look for our vision of the graduate. Same vision, just a nice updated graphic, a little catchier, a little easier to understand. So now that that's been rolled out, the work has been done, we'll be communicating the updated look to families, administrators, and schools. So that will be forthcoming in the next couple weeks. Also, we are running a series of after-school workshops called Parenting in the Digital Age. Our instructional technology facilitator, Danielle Galligan, is presenting some online safety tips to parents. She's going school by school. She was at Stevens School on October 5th. She will be at West Hill on November 9th, and she is in the process of scheduling a date for Moser School in the beginning of December. Lastly, asking you to save the date if you want to attend our annual EL Family Night that we have every year. This year it will take place on Wednesday, November 9th, 6 p.m. at West Hill School. And I will have Dr. Zito forward you the invitation if any of you are interested in attending. Thank you.
All right. Any questions for Ms. Listro? No? All right. Thank you for that report. And we're going to move on to Dr. Zito.
So one quick update, which is a follow-up on a conversation we had at the last school security committee meeting. We are now benefiting from a third school resource officer. It is being filled as an overtime shift, but the police chief is committed to 8-hour shift Monday through Friday. I was at West Hill a couple days ago and actually ran into one of the officers. It's being filled, like I said, in the overtime shift, but the bottom line is every day there are now 3 officers covering our schools, which is certainly a step in the right direction. The town is indicating that they're, trying to work through some budget issues on their own, but they are committed to staffing that. So I want to thank the board for approving the field project, and that assisted in moving things along. So,
Excellent.
Thank you.
Anything else, Dr. Zito?
No, that's it, just the update on that. I know board members had felt very strongly that we needed additional police coverage, and we are benefiting from that now.
Any questions for Dr. Zito? Yes, Ms. Tucker.
One question on the SRO. So the third one, is there now a dedicated one at GMS and then the third one's being split, or is it two
So
rotating?
it's a dedicated officer, typically Sarah Raymond at the high school.
Mhm.
And then the Keith Baker and whoever is on, the other day it was Alex Estrella, they split the other 4 schools. So I ran into one of the newer officers. He was a former Hartford officer, so we had some connections from the Hartford days. He's now in Rocky Hill. He was making his rounds at West Hill, and then he was heading over to Stevens. But that switches up all the time. I was at Stevens a few days ago and saw Keith Baker, so they don't want to be predictable. They move around. They cover, sometimes you will see Sarah at the middle school. They really try to be visible and out there and accessible. So it's going to change, but typically it's 1 at the high school, 2 covering the other 4 schools.
Thank you.
Excellent. Any additional questions for Dr. Zito? All right. My chairman's report is going to be brief tonight. I just want to start out by reiterating what Dr. Zito said. I think all the thoughts and prayers here at the board are really with Chuck Sedegren and his family right now. It's just a tragedy, and just we all feel for him. We miss him. We're thinking about him, and you know, hopefully everything gets better soon for his family, and we get to see Chuck back here again. But just again, all of our thoughts and prayers are with the Sedegren family. In terms of the transportation hearing, if any board member has issues with the app and feels we need to reconvene, that's something we did discuss at the transportation hearing meeting. I personally do not use the app, so I don't know. I don't have a child on the bus. But if anyone's still having issues this week, please reach out to Dr. Zito and just let him know so then we can reconvene the committee. Or if it's working great and we don't need to, let him know that as well. But I would like to make a decision by the end of this week whether or not to reconvene the committee. We are paying for the app through the contract. It needs to be beneficial to the community, so we want to make sure that we've righted the ship sooner versus later on getting this resolved. So please follow up with Dr. Zito if you are still having issues or want to convene the committee. In terms of the SRO, I just want to thank all the board members that participated in that school security dialogue and helped facilitate the hiring of the additional SRO for the school district. I also want to thank Mayor Murata and the council for funding it, because ultimately it is a function of the council to have the SROs, and I feel great that they were willing to hear the board's needs and assist us and have that additional SRO. So we look forward to having that additional layer of school security within the district. So I think that's a great improvement. The last 2 things I want to talk about are 2 just points about great things that go on within this district. And part of being chair is I get to throw these great ideas out to Dr. Zito and have him go run them down. So, and most of them come Sunday morning. I read the newspaper and send them an email or on Sunday morning. So the first person I want to thank is Ms. Listro. I go through my email Sunday morning, and there's a CABE Leadership Award that we got last year, and I suddenly realized that it was up again, and it was due within a week. And I want to thank Ms. Listro for all of her efforts in redoing the application for this board with all the great things that this board has done so far to date, and resubmitting an application for Rocky Hill. So hopefully we're going to be successful. Last year we were acknowledged as a Board of Excellence. I'm hoping to see that again this year, but I just want to thank Darlene for all of her efforts in putting that application together and getting it out. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dillon, but I have to also give compliments to my wonderful staff. And since Rupali Brower is here, she is my executive assistant.
So Rupali, thank you.
Who helps me look good. And
thank you.
Christine Flynn also helped out on that one because it was time sensitive. So thank you both.
So thank you. And I always forget to say thank you. I come up with these great ideas on a Sunday morning, not realizing that Mark's got to carry the ideas to fruition. And the second one that I came up with is really great news tonight. It must have been a few months ago. I had seen online that the Connecticut Council on Developmental Disabilities had a grant award program, and I had emailed Mark Sunday morning and said, Mark, what about, this was just after our Dream Academy meeting, what about expanding the Dream Academy and pursuing this opportunity for the Dream Academy and employment opportunities for those students? Well, Dr. Zito, the team, Ms. Stevenson, led the charge, and Dr. Zito was notified, as Ms. Stevenson was today, that we did get a $50,000 grant to start an expansion of the Dream Academy program, and that's through the Connecticut Council on Developmental Disabilities. So I think a lot of the board members were really, the new ones especially, were really overwhelmed and impressed when they saw that operation, Ms. Stevenson, and how we've taken it so far. And we really had a big dialogue that night about what the next step is. And I think this is part of that next step. So, you know, Dr. Zito, Ms. Stevenson, the team, thank you for all your efforts in pursuing that grant opportunity on short notice. It came to fruition. So I think we're really excited about what can come out of it. And maybe Dr. Zito or Ms. Stevenson, you want to just briefly talk about what your thoughts are? Where do we go?
In terms of with the money?
Yeah.
Finding a space.
Yeah.
That's the most pressing issue.
The most pressing issue is to find a space to expand the program, absolutely. But you're right. I mean, but it's a great opportunity to get started and continue this program.
Absolutely, because obviously the biggest barrier is funding. So that's a huge help.
And this is a piece. This is just a piece. I think it'll be part of our dialogue during the budget, but it's just another great example of the things that our staff actively does to pursue the best interests of the town of Rocky Hill. So really great stuff. Thank you, everyone, for all of your efforts. And that concludes my report tonight. Thank you, everyone. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion from Ms. Manella. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Tucker. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Have a great evening, everyone.